My name is Jocelyn. I am currently a sophomore at the University of Miami, although I'm a year older because I took a gap year. So I just celebrated my 21st birthday. I am currently triple majoring in marketing, business analytics, and business technology, although I think I am switching out the business tech major for a minor in strategic communication. That will be determined by the end of this week.
So what would you say has been the best part of college so far?
I think the best part of college is just like getting to explore everything. Like I said, I'm changing one of my majors to a minor and everything like that. I think it's so nice to meet people who it's really the interesting part about college is that you meet people who are in your major, in your school, and you meet people who have these same hobbies as you, but you also meet people in completely different majors doing completely different things. And so getting to just like see everything and meet all of these different people in one place is a really great experience.
How has COVID made your experience different than you thought it would be?
So COVID has definitely changed a lot. We got sent home a month and a half into the second semester of my freshman year. We were on spring break. We were told that we were coming back in 2 weeks and just never went back. So it definitely transitioning to online learning, as I'm sure anyone who's watching this has had to transition in high school or in college. Transitioning to online learning has definitely been interesting. I think the other thing about college that's interesting is that, especially in Miami, you can still do so much outside. So you really, during COVID, find a balance of like what you're comfortable with sitting outside with masks on, sitting outside eating lunch with a friend. All of my clubs have gone completely virtual. So all of our club meetings are online, which kind of has its pros and cons of it's harder to get to know people, but actually one of my clubs has gotten so much larger because we're online, so you're able to meet more people and kind of get a bunch of different people to come together because it's so much easier to convince someone to turn something on their computer rather than have to like walk to a building on campus. And now we've created this community that once we are back in person, hopefully all like 50 to 90 of our members are still going to come and make that trek across campus to come join our clubs.
Can you talk about one of the clubs that you're involved in?
Yeah. So one of the clubs that I'm involved in is the American Marketing Association. I'm actually the executive vice president, which just kind of means that I help all of the other VPs. The American Marketing Association is obviously a bigger thing than just at U Miami. I know that at my previous school, Hofstra, they also had one. We do a whole bunch of different things. We do anything from like different like case, either like there's a case competition amongst all of AMA that we participate in. We also do like little mock cases for our members to do. We bring in speakers and professors to talk about anything from specific industries to the interview process to what should your resume look like, your LinkedIn look like, just really anything. Obviously, a lot of it's marketing specific, but also just like things that help you get jobs and things that help you generally in the business world.
What has been your favorite class or perhaps favorite teacher?
Interesting. Okay, so I think right now my favorite class it's called BUS 300. It's about critical thinking. So it's this class where we do writing and public speaking, and this professor has ripped me apart. I'm getting lower grades than I get in anything else, but it pushes me to do so much better. So one of the things is that you're not allowed to use superfluous words. So my favorite word since fourth grade has been plethora, but plethora can always be said as a lot. And there's no reason to write the word plethora. And so this class is teaching me how to completely rewrite things because you're not writing the same way you're learning in high school, but it's actually more effective for the world of just write what you're trying to say in the simplest forms. And it's so crazy to me because my entire brain has to switch on what I think good writing should look like. And I love classes like that that really make you like think and learn. And the professor is amazing.
So kind of in the same track, and if you have a different example, that would work. What has been the most surprising about the transition from high school to college?
I think the most surprising is actually something I've experienced as a TA. So I'm a TA for BUS 150, which is like basically an Excel course, and we do a little bit of Tableau. And in this course, you have one case presentation and then two tests, and then a final, and then those are the Excel part, and then we have one Tableau presentation at the end. And something that I see as a TA is because there's no homework, people don't do the work. So, and you see this with a lot more than just that course. And I've had the experience as a student as well as a TA, but it's really, I think the biggest transition is just your learning is in your own hands. No one is sitting there making you do the work, making you read the textbook. You're never going to get, I don't want to say never, but in my experience at college, you don't have textbook check-ins, you don't have reading quizzes. Whether you do the reading or not is up to you. And obviously it'll have an impact on your grade, but you get to choose whether you want to learn. And I think that obviously the people who want to learn do better in their classes and learn more, and therefore that shows on the exam. But you really aren't being handheld in a way that forces you to like care more, because you're not forced to read some textbook you don't care about. You're forced to decide what the best way it is for you to learn. And I think that that's really helpful, because in high school there's so much professor or teachers telling you what you have to do in order to get the good grade, versus in college you get to change the way you learn, so it actually helps the way you get to learn. And again, hopefully you learn in a way that gets you to the good grades that you want, but you get to figure that out for yourself.
So, kind of shifting gears a little bit, at College Solutions, we talk a lot about students finding the right fit. What about your school makes it the right place for you?
I think I definitely took a journey to get to where I am. I think the thing that I didn't know when I started the college process that I figured out now that I'm here, U Miami is a great mix of working hard and actually having a social life. I think that for me, I have been so school focused and so academically driven for so many years that I forgot that an important part of college, and I would say equivalently important, is making the friends, is doing the social interaction, is having the clubs that are there. And I think that U Miami for me is a great fit. The classes are hard. I work my butt off for my classes, but that doesn't mean on the weekends I can't go and have fun with my friends, and that there aren't fun things to do. So you have the proximity to Miami, you have just general campus activities, and you also have like academic rigor, which is something that was really important to me.
What do you think was the most valuable part of working with College Solutions?
Honestly, I think the most valuable part of working with College Solutions was figuring out where to start. I could go on and on about how amazing my counselor was and how amazing the writing counselors were and coaches and everything like that. And I do fully believe in that. But I went into the college process with no idea. I didn't know what I wanted my major to be. My counselor helped me figure that out with the aptitude test. I didn't know geographically, I kind of had an idea, but I ended up not in my geographic location at all. So, like, that was there. I didn't know colleges. Most of the names of schools that I were thrown out at me to look at, to read the websites, to anything, I had no idea. So just starting with that gigantic list of all of the schools, and my counselor was like, sit, go online and look at all these websites, look at their website, look at all these different things. I would have had no idea where to start. And it was really nice because my counselor could take my personality into account, other students who he had placed at the same college who had similar personalities. He could take my wants. He helped me choose my major, which I stand by. I would have had no idea how to get to where I am, but now that I'm a marketing major, it makes so much sense that I'm a marketing major, and I don't know how I ever wasn't like, oh my god, I need to be a marketing major, and I couldn't have done any of that without College Solutions.
So, backing up a bit, do you remember how many schools you applied to?
Oh my goodness. The first round I applied to, wait, I have to count. UMass, Hartford, URI, the two Virginia ones, Michigan, Hofstra. Seven? Does that sound right, Larry? Seven?
You
I feel like you can look it up.
No, my guess is you probably applied to about 10 or 12, actually.
Really? I think it was less than that. I think it was closer to 8 to 10. I want to say. I think I applied to eight, somewhere between 8 and 10 in the first round.
do you remember about how many essays you wrote?
Oh my goodness. We'll go on the ballpark of, let's say I applied to 10. Obviously you have the Common App, which is one. I was sick, so I had to write an additional essay that kind of explained my situation. My transcript looked really different. I had passes on my transcript. I didn't have AP classes. All of those things that like you think that colleges are looking for. So I had to write an extra essay being like, hey, like, here's my situation. Here's why my transcript doesn't necessarily reflect what I'm capable of. And then I would say most schools I had to write 1 to 2 essays for. So that is a total of like 20-ish, I think, give or take.
We will circle back to the medical question because that's a really good point. But to close out on the essays, what was it like working with a writing coach on your essays?
I loved the writing coaches so much. So the writing coaches, at least when I did it, and I don't know if things have changed because it's been a couple of years, but there's never any like face-to-face interaction, but you still kind of get a vibe for them and a feel for them. So I would submit something, my counselor would give me a deadline. I often did it 2 to 3 days before the deadline. Very rarely was I doing it on the deadline, and I was absolutely never late. But I was given a deadline. You write whatever it is for that deadline. Then in the portal, they give them like a day or two or whatever it is. It was a pretty quick turnaround, at least in my experience. And they give comments, like, it's a Google Doc. So, comments, the way you can suggested edits, you can check them off, you can X them out, whatever, or some of them are more substantial and you have to kind of rework the whole thing. But you took the comments, you took the edits, you did the whole thing, and then you submitted the draft again. And you could go back and forth as many times as you want. I think that for some of the shorter ones, I probably only went back and forth once, maybe twice. I think for like my Common App or like the I got sick one, those must have had like 7 different back and forths. But I loved having the back and forth from someone. My grammar is atrocious. I'm not good at commas. I will say that to anyone. I said that to a professor this semester. I'm really bad at commas. So having someone that's there to be like, that comma shouldn't go there and that comma should, was really helpful. But they also were like, hey, is this what you mean to say? It kind of is coming off as this. I think this should go before this. That comments were super helpful. They were super clear. I never was like confused as to what they were telling me. They told you what you wanted. And the best part about it was I could say no. I could say, no, I like it better this way. And they wouldn't really push back. Like it was, at the end of the day, they were tweaking it and helping me get to where it needed to be. But it was my essay and they never tried to take my voice away from it, which I really appreciated.
If you could go back in time and give your 16-year-old self advice about the college application process, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to have reaches. My college counselor pushed me and told me I needed reach schools. I needed to apply to places that I didn't know I would get in. And I was too scared. I had all these extraneous circumstances. I didn't think anywhere would take me. I didn't know what I wanted, but then I had figured things and I picked things and I narrowed down my scope so much because I was so scared to get rejected. And it worked. I didn't get rejected to a single round of schools I applied to the first round. And then I ended up transferring. So I think like keep an open mind. Also, sometimes go with your gut. Like something that I said at the very beginning was I want a school with school spirit. And then I kind of let it dwindle a little bit because a lot of the schools that I were applying to were smaller or just the spirit wasn't there in the same way. And then you look at me now and I'm at a school where I was in Spain and someone flashed the U at me because I was wearing like a hoodie or something like that. So I think like part of it is go with your gut about what you're looking for. And the other part about it is like, don't be scared. It's okay to be rejected. I wish I could drill that into my brain as a 16-year-old. It's okay to be rejected. There's not one end all be all right school, but don't limit yourself just because you don't think you're going to get in somewhere.
So, bit of a stretch of a question. What would you tell a parent who is thinking about working with College Solutions?
I would tell a parent to trust the process. I also would tell a parent to trust your kid. And I think that I was a high achieving, I did my deadlines on time. So I think that it kind of is different for every parent. But at the end of the day, I think that it's your kid's process. And I totally understand my parents had a geographical limit. I understand if there's like budgeting and financial things, don't be involved because obviously you want to be involved. But I think remember that the college counselors here are so good. They know what they're doing. And trust your kid. They're leaving. They're going off to go live their own life. And if you try to force them into a school that you want them to be at, they're not going to be happy. So at the end of the day, remember, it's their process and the counselors are there to help them get where they need to be.
Shifting a little bit back to talk about high school, what was it like to have medical challenges in high school?
Having medical challenges in high school is really difficult. I think that there's so many components to it that a lot of people don't think about. Obviously, your first thought is, oh my God, your grades. I wasn't in AP classes. I didn't do the SAT until senior year. All of those things. I think the other thing about being sick in high school is your friends. I lost a lot of friends because all of a sudden I wasn't in those honors classes. I went from being enrolled in all of my classes except for one were honors to a thing where I was taking lower level classes. I wasn't able to show up to school a lot of the days. I think that there was that dinged. I apologize. Let me close that and then I will restart that so that it doesn't happen again.
It's no big deal.
Don't even know where my email is. I love watching Larry's face after all of these because he's just like, I know I'm right. He's like, I
Okay,
know.
I'll cue you again. Let me cue you again. Okay. So, what was it like to have medical challenges in high school?
Having medical challenges in high school is really hard. I think that there's a lot of parts to it that people don't really understand. Obviously, everyone thinks about the academics. I didn't do my SATs until senior year. I wasn't in AP classes. I went from being in all honors classes to dropping down to lower classes. But another part that was really important that not and many people realize is the social component. A lot of high school friends, if you're not in their immediate vicinity, at least in my experience, they don't put the effort in. So all of a sudden, I wasn't in these honors classes with my friends, and I didn't have a lot of friends. So I think that to anyone who's struggling with it, stay strong. It gets better. And also know that although I don't wish it on anyone, you learn a lot from being sick. You learn who your true friends are. You learn what you're good at and what you care about, and you learn how to be resilient. I am 100% the person I am today because I got sick. I am stronger. I am more mature because of it. And although, again, it is not an experience I would wish on anyone in the entire world, I think that there's a lot you gain from it at the end of the day. Make sure you have a good support system. Make sure you have people that you rely on, and don't focus so much on the people that don't, because they're not worth it at the end of the day.
What was it like to apply to college with these medical challenges?
So the college application process was really hard. Part of it was I got sick at the end of my sophomore year and was pretty much down for the count through the beginning of my junior year, but through the beginning of my senior year, sorry. So because I was sick from sophomore to the beginning of senior year, I didn't do all of the college things when everyone else did them. I didn't take the SATs until my senior year. I didn't do a single college tour until my senior year. Honestly, the hardest part was senior year. Everyone was getting their acceptances and I hadn't applied yet. Especially like early action ones, early decision ones, like people were done before I had even toured a school. And it's hard, it's hard. It's always hard in high school when you're not with the crowd and with everyone else. I think that the thing about it is remembering that like college isn't linear and life isn't linear. If you had told me when I was 16 that I would have taken a gap year, I would have said, absolutely not. I want to go to college more than anything else in the world. That was my goal. Was all I wanted since freshman year of high school. But my life would look completely different if I hadn't taken my gap year. And I wouldn't want it to be different. I'm so happy with where I am now.
Going to the gap year, why did you want to take a gap year and what did you learn from it?
Yeah. So, like I said, I didn't want to take a gap year. I wanted to go into college so badly, more than anything else, but my doctor said that I couldn't. My doctor said that being able to, by the time I could start doing everything, if I wanted to apply to schools, I would have had to only apply to test optional schools, and I would have had maybe a month to do the entire thing. I wouldn't have been able to tour all of it. And that was more stress. And because of my my physical health problems, my doctors told me, you are not allowed to do that. You are not allowed to apply to go to college that next year. It's not going to be good for your health. And you just worked for over a year to get yourself back to being in a place where you could be healthy again. So I didn't choose to take a gap year. It kind of happened. I then chose what I got to do on my gap year. So on my gap year, I went to a gap year program called Young Judea Year Course. It's a 9-month program in Israel. And that was something my parents had done it. I heard about it they had done it. I didn't know anyone else that did it. My parents had done it. It was a gap year program in Israel. I wanted to go to Israel, and that's what I decided to do. What I learned the world from it. I being in a foreign country where you don't speak the language, surrounded by people you've never met. I had 60 of my closest friends there. All of these, I lived in an apartment with 14 girls. None of us had known each other beforehand. And the skills that you learn from just kind of getting out of the nest are, they're so valuable. You learn independence on such a greater level than what college teaches you. I literally was 9 hours away, not 9 hours. I was a 7 hour time difference from my parents. So if something was wrong, I couldn't just call home and be like, Mom, I need this, and cry or whatever it was. You learn how to be so much more self-reliant and resilient. And I think the other thing about gap years is I was so scared coming out of my gap year that it was going to be such a problem that I was older, that people weren't going to want to be my friend freshman year because I was a year older. And let me tell you, no one cares. Literally, no one cares that you're a year older. You're going to meet people in college that are a year younger, a year older. Literally, no one cares. Absolutely not. And I think that it was also my high school experience. My grade stayed friend with my grade. And that's also not true in college. You know, I have a lot of friends that are juniors. I have a couple friends that are seniors. I have a lot of friends that are freshmen and sophomores. So it's not as linear. So if you want to take a gap year because that's something you have, something you want to do and you're passionate about, go take a gap year. And if you have to take a gap year for whatever reason, it will be okay. It will not affect your life once you get into college, other than that you will be a stronger person because of it.
So moving on from the gap year, can you talk a little bit about the transfer process?
Yeah. So my transfer process was unique in that I decided a week before the deadline and I was applying to one school. So I had already, it was the only school that I had visited. Things had gotten rough. I was planning on waiting until the end of the year. So I transferred my first semester, so freshman year. So I kind of knew that I wasn't really happy with the school that I chose. And I was talking on and off about whether I wanted to transfer. And I was thinking that maybe I would transfer at the end of freshman year, giving it a whole year. But things got bad. I really wasn't happy. And I realized that I wasn't going to be happy. And giving it more time wasn't just going to like fix the things. The college I had chosen just wasn't the right fit. So I literally decided, I emailed my counselor at like midnight one night, responded the next morning and was like, okay, let's have a meeting. And I worked my butt off for a week. The nice thing about only applying one place was that I only, you know, you had your why you want to transfer essay. I think I maybe had one other one that was like why this school or whatever. It definitely wasn't as intensive, although I do have friends that have applied to transfer, have transferred, that did basically the whole college process all over again. So it is a commitment. If you are doing it, make sure you realize how it is a commitment over your schoolwork and all that kind of stuff as well. It's not crazy different than the regular process. I mean, for me, it was a shorter time span. You know, different, there are different stats, like whether like the rates are different of stuff like that. But all in all, I would say that transferring isn't a super different process than the first time you go through college applications.
Final question, and we talked about this a little bit before, but how has Miami been for you both before the pandemic and now?
Yeah. So my before the pandemic experience was, again, like a month and a half, and it was amazing. I loved, you know, the nice thing about Miami, which is true both before and after the pandemic, is people are outside all the time. No matter where you walk, no matter if it's raining, no matter what it is, there's always people sitting outside doing work. Which is something that I'm not the biggest fan of Florida as a general, but it is really nice to be able to like go sit outside on campus. There's so many outdoor study spaces. So that part of Miami is nice pre and post COVID. I mean, I think that with COVID generally, there's less like random interactions. You're not gonna randomly bump into someone at the dining hall and choose to sit down with them. You know, you're not gonna start talking to someone in the library the same way. And I think that that's a challenge that the current freshmen are going to face, more so than I had to. I think Miami did, for all intents and purposes, a pretty good job of going online. I think I would say like 50-50. Some of my professors decided to make things open note and make like testing quizzes more conceptual. And I've had a good chunk of classes that we have completely open note exams, at least while it was online. And then we also have classes that are doing lockdown. So it basically takes your computer. You cannot open anything. You can't touch anything. You're in an internet browser and you take tests that way. I mean, I think on any college campus, you're going to get the backlash of what the frats are doing. And obviously, COVID has shaken up what people think is okay and what people don't think is okay. For me, I've been able to find people who are willing to do what's in my comfort zone. I don't like eating inside restaurants. Right now, that's something that stresses me out. I don't have a vaccine, anything like that. And I've been able to find people on the college campus that feel similar to me, or at least are willing to respect what I do and don't decide. I think that any college campus, you're going to find people who do and don't believe in the things, who do and don't take COVID seriously. Hopefully the next round of people are all vaccinated and don't have to deal with this. But I think all in all, they've done a pretty good job of kind of keeping it going. And like I said, clubs have gone online, so it's not like it's just work and that's it. There was virtual sorority recruitment. There was, again, my clubs have gone online. E-boards are still happening. Very little things have been completely shut down. It's just that everything's been kind of transferred digitally. Awesome.
Okay, another question. Can you talk a little bit about Greek life at Miami, why you chose to join a sorority, and when you ended up rushing?
Yeah, so me joining a sorority, while it's not super surprising to anyone, also wasn't something that was like guaranteed. I decided to join a sorority because as a transfer student, I wanted to meet more girls. I naturally make guy friends really easily. So I wanted to have that like strong group of females that like always had my back. The way Miami does it, which I think is true of a lot of schools nowadays, although I do know some that do fall, we have our recruitment, our big like formal recruitment in the spring. So freshman year, you have to do first semester freshman year without being in Greek life for both sororities and fraternities, so that you can make sure you have the minimum GPA in order to get into that organization, which I personally agree with and think is great. It has a lot of other benefits of also being able to, you kind of make your own friends before you do it, all that kind of stuff. So that being said, because I transferred in, the sorority recruitment is typically the week before classes start. And again, when it's not virtual, you go there and you move into your dorm early and you do this process in person. So that coincided with my like orientation week. For us, it's called Cane Kickoff. Everyone has a different thing. And I decided that it wasn't worth doing it as a freshman when everyone else did it and missing that orientation, because I felt like it was important for me to get whatever you're supposed to know about school kind of in. Then you have informal recruitment in the fall, which is smaller. You don't really like hop around and get to see all of the sororities. You kind of know which one you want and go. I had debated that a little bit, but then I actually was completely remote that fall semester. So I didn't want to do it remote. I wanted to do it when I was coming back to campus. So then spring, my sophomore year rolls around. I definitely was not the only sophomore doing it. However, obviously it is freshman dominated. That tends to be when people do it. I didn't feel like any of the sororities I didn't get a bid or didn't whatever because I was a sophomore. I think that sorority recruitment, they'll tell you to trust the process. I think that part of it's kind of a load of BS and part of it's really helpful. I think that people go in, there's a whole tier system and people care a lot and whatever. And I think that the people who want to be top tier, make sure you're joining sororities for the right reasons. I think that the sorority process is really about finding people who you want to be friends with. So I went in with that perspective and I found a group of women who I love. Obviously, I'm not best friends with all 160 people in my sorority, but that being said, there's amazing people that I've met and I've made some really strong friends, and it's been a couple of months. So I think that for anyone who's thinking about it, make sure you go in with the right headspace, but go in, try it, do formal recruitment. You'll get to see all the sororities, meet them all, see what they're about. And I think fraternities, it's similar, although slightly different depending. I think their formal recruitment is less rigid of a process, but I encourage anyone to go and try it out, because anyone who meets me will know I am not a typical sorority girl, but the group of women that I am with very much embody who I am and who I want to be. And I think I want to say all college campuses, I don't know if I can make that claim, but on most college campuses, you're going to find a group of people that fit you well. They might not be who you thought you were going to be with, and they might not be the people you thought you were going to be best friends with. But I think that if you go into sorority recruitment with the correct mindset, you can find a group of women who are really going to be there to support you.